Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Circle Up and Get Real, where we talk about things that matter with people who matter. And today I am on my own and hoping that somebody will put a comment here. Oh man, it's been a week. I tell ya, we in America have just elected a different same president. Donald Trump was elected in a pretty overwhelming majority. And that's caused a lot of angst and a lot of interesting dialogue, I guess I would say it like that, among people on my platforms, and which is mostly Facebook. And I'm really fascinated by the conversation because my intention is always dialogue. And I define dialogue as suspending previous assumptions in order to learn something. And in that spirit of dialogue, I've been really encouraged by the dialogue that I'm witnessing there. A little bit different, not in person, I understand that. And it's easy to be a keyboard warrior and just, go troll things. And I did have to be a little bit policey, just a little bit on that post that ended up really inviting a lot of dialogue. And that's got me thinking about things because I'll be completely honest, I was a lot disappointed. I did not vote for Trump, and I voted the way I voted because I really believe that joy is something I put into my life, and that was what I saw on the other side. And I was disappointed. And I've had a day. I took a day. I took a day yesterday. And I am seeing things a lot more clearly today. And so I just kind of wanted to share some thoughts and also something that's brewing and has been brewing in my mind since probably 2019, perhaps. And I think now's the time to bring it out. I'm not ready to announce it yet, but I do have something on the back burner, which I'm kind of excited to share. Today, I just wanted to talk about the Sneetches. I've read books here before, and it's not easy because there are page-turning not options, obstacles, and it doesn't do well for the microphone, which is sitting right here, right next to me. I will do my best not to make a lot of noise, especially for the audio of the podcast. But this is a book by Dr. Seuss, who was a lot ahead of his time. Dr. Seuss was Jewish, and this book, I think, was just written. The Sneetches and Other Stories, by the way, is the book if you're not watching on the video. Had something to do with anti-Semitism. I don't want to get into all that. I just want us in this moment to really pay attention to this story because I think there's a lot of wisdom behind, like most Dr. Seuss books and other children's books, actually. There's a lot of wisdom behind the obvious pictures and story. And Dr. Seuss has a way of rhyming in a way that's really fun to listen to. So I'm going to read you the story of the Sneetches and Other Stories, and then we'll come back on the other side and have a chat. Now, the Star-Bellied Sneetches, in fact, I'm going to do it like this. Okay, here we go. Now the Star-Bellied Sneetches had bellies with stars. The plain-bellied Sneetches had none upon theirs. Those stars weren't so big, they were really so small. You might think such a thing wouldn't matter at all. So you can see in the picture there's one Star-Bellied Sneetch with a star on his stomach, and the other Star-Bellied Sneetch doesn't. So I'm going to just hold up the picture, and then I'm going to bring the book back, and I'm going to do that each time. So here's the picture. But because they had stars, all the Star-Bellied Sneetches would brag, "We're the best kind of Sneetch on the beaches." With their snoots in the air, they would sniff and they'd snort. "We'll have nothing to do with the plain belly sort." And whenever they met some, when they were out walking, they'd hike right on past them without even talking. When the Star-Bellied children went out to play ball, could a plain belly get in the game? Not at all. You could only play if your bellies had stars, and the plain bellied children had none upon theirs. When the Star-Bellied Sneetches had Frankfurter roasts, or picnics or parties or marshmallow toasts, they never invited the plain-bellied Sneetches. They left them out cold in the dark of the beaches. They kept them away, never let them come near, and that's how they treated them year after year. And there's the picture of the Frankfurter roasts. Then, one day, it seems, while the plain-bellied Sneetches were moping and doping alone on the beaches, just sitting there wishing their bellies had stars, a stranger zipped up in the strangest of cars. My friends, he announced in a voice clear and keen, my name is Sylvester McMonkey McBean, and I've heard of your troubles. I've heard you're unhappy. But I can fix that. I'm the fix-it-up chappie. I've come here to help you. I have what you need, and my prices are low, and I work at great speed. And my work is 100% guaranteed. Then, quickly, Sylvester McMonkey McBean put together a very peculiar machine, and he said, you want stars like a Star-Bellied Sneetch, my friends? You can have them for $3 each. Just pay me your money and hop right aboard. So they clambered inside, then the big machine roared, and it clonked, and it bonked, and it jerked, and it burked, and it bopped them about. But the thing really worked. When the plain belly Sneetches popped out, they had stars. They actually did. They had stars upon theirs. Then they yelled at the ones who had stars at the start. We're exactly like you. You can't tell us apart. We're all just the same now, you snooty old smarties. And now we can go to your Frankfurter parties. Good grief, groaned the ones who had stars at the first. We're still the best Sneetches and they are the worst. But now, how in the world will they know, they all frowned, if which kind is what, or the other way round? Here they are with all stars on their bellies. Then up came McBean with a very sly wink, and he said, things are not quite as bad as you think. So you don't know who's who. That is perfectly true. But come with me, friends. Do you know what I'll do? I'll make you again the best Sneetches on beaches, and all it will cost you is $10 eaches. Belly stars are no longer in style, said McBean. What you need is a trip through my star-off machine. This wondrous contraption will take off your stars, so you won't look like Sneetches who have them on theirs. And that handy machine, working very precisely, removed all the stars from their tummies quite nicely. Then, with snoots in the air, they paraded about, and they opened their beaks and they let out a shout. We know who is who. Now there isn't a doubt. The best kind of Sneetches are Sneetches without. Then, of course, those with stars got all frightfully mad. To be wearing a star now was frightfully bad. Then, of course, old Sylvester McMonkey McBean invited them into his star-off machine. Then, of course, from then on, as you probably guess, things really got into a horrible mess. All the rest of that day, on those wild screaming beaches, the fix-it-up chappie kept fixing up Sneetches. Off again, on again, in again, out again. Through the machines they raced round and about again, changing their stars every minute or two. They kept paying money. They kept running through until neither the plain nor the Star-Bellies knew whether this one was that one, or that one was this one, or which one was what one, or what one was who. And there's the machine taking people in and out, putting stars on, taking stars off. Then, when every last cent of their money was spent, the fix-it-up chappie packed up and he went. And he laughed as he drove in his car up the beach. They never will learn. No, you can't teach a Sneetch. But McBean was quite wrong, I'm quite happy to say, that the Sneetches got really quite smart on that day. The day they decided that Sneetches are Sneetches, and no kind of Sneetch is the best on the beaches. That day, all the Sneetches forgot about stars, and whether they had one or not upon theirs. And there's the story and the picture of shaking hands with people, Sneetches, whether they have stars or not. So what's the point? What's the point of that story? I guess this is where I am really interested in inviting dialogue instead of telling you what I believe. So I'm going to leave that to you, and I'm going to ask you in comments, or, if you have a way to communicate your take on that, I would love to hear it. Because I think it has something to do with how we see ourselves in America this week. After Tuesday, after the election, there's a lot of Sneetches. There are a lot of Sneetches. We don't have beaches. We don't all have beaches, but there are a lot of Sneetches. And I'm just curious about that because I'm learning more about myself every day. I'm learning that I have opinions, I have feelings, I have ways I see the world, I have preferences. There are things I like, things I don't like. The one I always use when I talk about this is peanut butter. Peanut butter is perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong with peanut butter, but it makes me gag. I know there are people who feel that way about cilantro. For some people, it tastes like soap, I guess. I really like cilantro. But if I said to everybody who thinks that cilantro tastes like soap, they're wrong, what's the point of that? I'm learning that beets are the same way. Some people really like beets. And for others, if you eat beets, they taste like dirt. So it's really interesting. I can't take a stand on that, can I? Because people see things differently. And I wonder if there is any lesson for us to learn here in America. So I'm not going to get into a whole lot of detail here. I'm going to let you do that for yourself. But I wonder if there's a chance to decide how we want to go into that star off, star on machine, and whether or not there's a way to unpack some of our experiences and decide whether there are things we want to keep in that suitcase, in that baggage, whether we want to drop the baggage altogether, whether we want to recycle it. There are ways to think about our thoughts and our beliefs in that way. I'm not saying you have to get rid of your values. I'm not saying that at all. And in fact, in this space we find ourselves, I find it fascinating to observe the conversations. And maybe that's why it's kind of nice to see it in writing. Even if there are keyboard warriors and people who are braver behind the keyboard than they are in real life, there are names on these. There aren't any anonymous posts, at least not on mine. And I'm really interested in who takes the time to actually make thoughtful responses. And I'm going to use that word really on purpose too. Response comes from your thinking. It means you actually took some time to think things through. You responded to something. Reaction comes from your emotions, and sometimes that happens without us actually taking the situation up through our thought process. And I'm doing the same thing. I feel so good today about everything. And it's because I've had some time to process. I think we need that. We need time to process things if we are thoughtful and if we are working on our own discernment muscles, which I say is using your head brain, your heart brain, and your gut brain, all three, to process and discern before we decide. That kind of leads me to what's coming soon. I don't know when, because it just kind of occurred to me this morning. I bought a domain name in 2019. About the time I think I was writing my last book, in 2019, I wrote a book called Power Tools at Work. And that was quite a process that whole year. And that book came out at the end of the year. And then COVID happened, and I don't think that book ever got the play it could have gotten, probably because I wasn't great at talking about it. I think that book is still very, very relevant. It's about owning your power, purpose, open-mindedness, wisdom, energy, responsibility, and there are tools at the end of every chapter if you want to use it for your family or your team. I love that book, and it's beautifully designed by my friend Brenda Levis, who is talented and gifted in that area. So my next book is coming out in the next 2 weeks. I won't talk about that here. I'll talk about that on a separate podcast. But that one's really fun too. I think you'll really enjoy that. But the thought I had this morning was a domain name that I bought in 2019, and the domain name is purpledialogue.com. And I don't know what to do with it yet. I believe that something will be born in the next, I don't know, a couple months under that heading, purpledialogue.com. So if you want to go look at that, I think that relates to the Sneetches. I think that relates to what we've been kind of feeling in America, probably not just for the last week, for the last 10 years. Maybe now's the time. So watch for that. It'll be coming soon. And as always, thank you for being here on the podcast. If you can help me spread the word, I'm not great at that. Every week there is a podcast released on Circle Up and Get Real, where this is going to be showing up. There's a video, the video you'll see, and then there is an audio. You can find it wherever you get podcasts or also on Audible for free. So just look for Circle Up and Get Real, and I will leave you as I do every time. Just go into your life and practice what it means to get real. Radical, energized, authentic, and learning focused. Watch for that coming in the next book, which is called Just Give a Shit. So watch for that book coming in the next couple of weeks, and you'll know that in that book you'll have a lot of opportunity to practice getting real. So thanks, everybody. I look forward to talking with you again.